What's up, everybody? Welcome to FoundFlix. On this Sitting Explained, we're looking at Heretic, where two young missionaries become ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of the diabolical Mr. Reed. Trapped in his home, they must turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. Now, Heretic isn't the scariest movie around, but it is quite thought-provoking, as much of the story is all about finding what is the one true religion, leading to some quite in-depth monologues from the devilishly charming Hugh Grant in his most villainous turn since Paddington 2. That really is the biggest appeal and success of Heretic, is really unleashing Hugh Grant with his disarming charm and twisting it into something dark and unsettling. The entire main trio all shine here, and thank goodness, because 90% of it is them talking. Even if mostly dialogue-based, Heretic stays consistently engaging and ratchets the tension up quite well. It has several certainly surprising twists, in addition to some quite interesting ideas and thoughts pondered. That ties into the confusing ending itself, which really does tie everything together. So let's check out Heretic, breaking down the story, including just what is the purpose of Reed's experiment, as well as explaining the ending that leaves us wondering just what was real. From the very opening, through the conversation of Sisters Paxton and Barnes, we're looking at the different ways that people believe in a higher power. The much more reserved Sister Paxton tells a tale about watching a porno video, and during the action, someone knocked on the wall, interrupting the coitus. In that moment, Paxton described the female participant's reaction, one of embarrassment and shame. She strangely found in that moment that God is real. Okay, kind of weird place to find that. Paxton inquires to Barnes, when did she find divine confirmation? Barnes is more interested in her video viewing habits, and we can already see a stark difference between the pair. While Barnes is still a believer, she has a much more experienced point of view versus the very sheltered Paxton. There's also the idea introduced of how rumors are perceived. According to what Paxton has heard, there is no difference between a regular and magnum-sized condom, while Barnes maintains that according to a family member, it's definitely a thing, referencing her ex with an elephant trunk. Well, thanks for that. Who knows what is actually correct? Regardless, both have their own interpretations, which is the point. The pair work their way through the small mountain town, doing their best to spread the word. They encounter a group of girls stopping traffic to film a video, and for some reason, Paxton is all, oh, I love them. She soon eats her words when the girl asks for a picture. The head bitch asks if it's true that they wear magic underwear and pantses her, embarrassing Paxton. Yeah, they suck. She's still holding back tears later, and is worried about people making fun of them. There is that whole South Park musical about it. Barnes has actually listened to some of the tunes and found them quite humorous, that's correct, but she knows Paxton is struggling and peps her up. Who cares what people think anyway? You're awesome. They then arrive at the residence of someone who did express interest in the church, as in not just randomly going door to door, they knock and wait in anticipation, seeing someone shuffling around through the window. The storm really picks up, almost like God warning them in a way, and a kind-looking man answers the door with a smile. They confirm that he is Mr. Reed, and indeed he was interested in hearing about the church. Paxton breathlessly goes on a spiel about the gospel, and Reed invites them inside. The girls are hesitant. According to church rules, they can't be alone with a man. Well, no worries, as his wife is somewhere inside busy making a blueberry pie. See? Nothing to worry about. Same goes for Reed randomly mentioning that there is metal in the walls. That's not a problem, right? Yeah, I'm sure that won't come up later. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Why would you have metal in your walls? He leaves them briefly and takes their coats. The girls take in the dated decor, noticing a butterfly fluttering towards a ceiling lamp. Reed returns, promising his wife's pie is on the way. They point out that she really needs to be in the room with them, but put it aside for now. Paxton leads, selling him on the Church of Latter-day Saints. Are you ready to hear God's plan for you? Reed is more interested in their history, learning Paxton is one of 8 siblings who all grew up in the church, while Barnes' journey is a bit different. After her father passed, her mother tried out several churches before settling on the Mormon faith. Reed can appreciate that. You have to find a doctrine you believe in. He himself has struggled with his faith. What is the one true religion, he chuckles. This specifically is the basis for the entire story as it unfolds. Reed knows his stuff and details the absurd origins of Mormonism involving one Joseph Smith. The girls are a bit uncomfortable, and Reed doesn't seem bothered, asking if Barnes has seen any signs of her deceased father reaching out from beyond the grave. She hasn't, which he finds quite strange. He already appears to find something off about Barnes, and notices her scratching at an incision spot on her arm. Paxton gushes that when she dies, she wants to come back as a butterfly to follow around the people she loved. She'll make sure that they know it's her by landing right on their fingertip. The mood changes when the lights cut out on a timer. Reed dismisses it as a foible of the house. It's time for pie and enlightenment. There still is no pie, but only more pointed questions that seem designed to make them question their faith. He broaches the subject of polygamy, which the church has shied away from in modern day. Was this just put in the religion in the first place to cover for Smith's own infidelity, or was this truly the word of God? Barnes defends they needed it at the time to grow their members, more babies to help the community grow. Down the line, it simply wasn't necessary anymore. They both still stay on the side of their faith, even as Reed points out that Smith was a man. Men lie and sin, so how could you trust him to tell the truth? Well, because of how it makes you feel, Paxton says. He claps that he could not agree more. He continues about his own personal relationship with religion. He studied theology for years, trying to find the ultimate version of all the religions out there. After years and years of studying, nothing held up when scrutinized. He then gets gravely serious. The one thing he didn't try to do was find the one true religion, but unfortunately, he did. The girls try to stay on topic, and once more stress that they need his wife to be here. Reed leaves to seek her out, supposedly, and winds up a timer before receding into the dark. They hear some various sounds, but no other voices heard. They decide they should go ahead and wrap things up here. Barnes stares down to the candle, and yep, it's blueberry pie scented. There was no pie in the first place. He has 100% been lying to them, but the question is when exactly, or the whole time. He returns and escorts them deeper into the house. They pretend to get a call and try to take their leave. However, they need their bike lock key, which is in their coats, which he took. They decide to just hoof the long journey anyway. But when trying the door, it is locked, despite there appearing to be no lock at all. They have no choice but to seek Reed's assistance, forcing them back into the halls. They round a corner, seeing a figure there that stops them dead in their tracks. Fortunately, it's just a statue to the relief. They enter into a quite impressive faux chapel and library, a jazzy tune about butterflies filling the air. They excuse that they heard from the church and were ordered to return. They see their jackets nearby, and the key, which was originally in Barnes's jacket, is now oddly in Paxton's. What has Reed been up to? Barnes asks for assistance with the door, and he reveals that it won't open again until the morning. It's on a timer. Their only option is to go through the back of the house, motioning to an ominous door, which of course he promises is safe. Look at you. What's the problem? It's not a big deal. The girls point out that this situation is definitely turning a bit sketchy, which he has to agree with, but tells them that they are welcome to leave. He doesn't want to pressure them, but notes that they were fibbing about the phone call. Remember the metal in the walls? Yeah, it blocks out all cell signals. They once more stress the rules that they must follow. Can he get his wife to take them outside already, please? Reed presses them on the matter of his unseen wife. Do they really still think that she's real, despite all the evidence to the contrary? He poses them to think of this same idea in the context with their beliefs. Perhaps they believe in God because they were told to at a young age. Over the years, they stayed faithful despite piles of evidence disproving his existence. He then turns to Barnes regarding her dad dying. That was God's plan. She kept believing because it gave her comfort, even if knowing that it was all a lie. She holds back her emotions and coldly requests to use his phone, but he says he doesn't have one, of course. Paxton tries a different tactic, playing along with him, complimenting his beautiful home. He says that it was his wife that built it. Barnes opens the first door and sheds a tear at what's within. She tries the other door, and it's a staircase leading a long way down. They're even more uneasy now. That sure doesn't look like it goes outside. Reed counters that the house is built on the back of a hill. You gotta go down to get out. It's totally normal. Paxton pleads to help get them home. People are expecting us. As for which door to choose, they should consider it very carefully, he says, and make sure to make the right decision. He gets really serious and catches them off guard, producing a copy of Monopoly. Paxton looks tense, a single drop of sweat forming on her temple. She turns back to a figure covered in a shroud. Everybody knows Monopoly, right? But there was an original iteration of the game, the Landlord's game. It was created decades prior to Monopoly. The original creator died unappreciated, while the Monopoly creator became the first millionaire game designer. They don't see what this has to do with them leaving, and he tells them that it's all about iterations. He demonstrates with the three major monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They're all based on the same source material, sharing many characters and history with differing meanings and perspectives. As another example, sure, the girls may not know the song by the Hollies, The Air That I Breathe, but they certainly must know Creep by Radiohead. The songs are strikingly similar, so much so that the Hollies actually sued Radiohead for infringement. And then decades later, Lana Del Rey released something that sounded a lot like Creep. And yep, sued! These are all iterations over time, diluting the message and obscuring the original. Technically, Judaism would be the OG monotheistic religion, but they have a shockingly small number of followers. Why is it less popular than the others, he wonders. The girls are befuddled. Are we talking about religion, board games, or music? Yes, he smirks. He knows that Judaism doesn't have little soldiers like them going door to door, salespeople for their organization. They are selling a product, an idea. The timer clicks, plunging them back into darkness. He ties his thoughts together. All holy texts are just iterations of mythology, which people have been telling each other for centuries. It's not actually true in a literal sense. There are several gods that existed prior to the time of the Christian God, and several of them have similar histories, walking on water, or a savior born to a virgin, even resurrected. All these, he says, are iterations of the same general idea. He equates it to something like the Phantom Menace. Imagine thousands of years from now, people accept Jar Jar Binks as a religious figure. The lights come back on, and he presents the doors to them once more, but now writes belief on one and disbelief on the other. The kingdom of God or nothing. He blows out a candle and asks them to pick based on their faith at the moment. Reed makes his feelings concrete. All religion is as artificial as his chapel room. The holy texts are meaningless and just as hollow and capitalistic as these games, really stressing his point by throwing them to the ground. Barnes wants to know what's going to happen before they choose, but he can't answer that question. It's a test of faith, you know. Paxton thinks that she's figured out what he wants to hear, buttering him up that he's made some interesting points, and now they will exit through the disbelief door. I mean, that must be what he wants, right? Barnes doesn't see the point. Even if they admit that he's right, he's not going to let him go. She assumes that Reed is studying them and learning based on what actions they take. She turns the tables on him and points out that a lot of his arguments leave out important information just to fit his narrative. Barnes finds her feelings too complex to fit into simply belief or disbelief. There's an entire spectrum that his game is neglecting. She asks Paxton, "Do you believe in God?" She does, and in that case, well, let's go through the belief door, honest and sincere. Let God decide what happens next. Unsurprisingly, the stairs aren't heading anywhere near outside, just going deeper into the depths. As they get a bit of the way down, Reed locks them down there. They pass through another chamber and then another with a simple table and chair. Now, word from this week's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the fun, easy way to get into real money sports action. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You know it's playoff season, so when it comes to the pigskin, it's now or never. And Prize Picks is the best place to win big while watching the playoffs. You think Derrick Henry is going to do more or less than 99.5 rush yards? Or is Russell Wilson going to get more or less than 275.5 pass yards? Just pick what you think and you're good to go. It's fun to compare with friends too and see what they pick. We don't always agree, that's for sure. They also have awesome weekly promos that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to add even more value for your lineups. So download the app today and use code EXPLAINED to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code EXPLAINED to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Paxton is starting to lose it, worrying that they'll be trapped down here forever. Barnes doesn't think that's the case and has a plan of her own to ruffle Reed's feathers. Challenge him back, see how he likes it. Barnes tries to use the table to reach a window, but it's covered in a cage. Hearing him coming, they quickly get things back in place. Barnes took a knife from the chapel and hands it over to her. If they have the chance, stab him in the neck. And they choose the code word magic underwear. The door unlocks and creaks very slowly open. It's not Reed, but a woman who steps out barefoot covered in white cloth. She shambles over to the table, clutching a fresh blueberry pie. Hey, so there is pie! She folds her arms behind her back and crouches down on the ground. The girls have no idea what's going on with her as Creep by Radiohead strums over the speakers. Back in his office, Reed has constructed an elaborate diorama of his strangely constructed house. This really proves how elaborate his little game here really is, with characters carved representing the girls like pawns in a chess game. Also worth pointing out that both doors ultimately lead to the same place. It's also crazy that he obviously built this whole underground chamber system thing. How long has he been doing this? You can't help but wonder. It's also just completely psychotic. I mean, how do you even get metal put in your house? You have to get like a construction team to come out and do that, or build it from scratch and already start it with metal in the walls, and they're gonna be like, why the hell do you want metal in your walls? And why are we building a chamber down to this? Whatever. He also has a notebook where he's taking copious notes, marking each step the sisters have taken in detail. This really is like an experiment for him. The tape abruptly stops, and he comes over the loudspeaker informing them that they are in the presence of a living prophet of God. He reveals this is the true reason he's brought them here, to show them a miracle, one that proves that all religions are false, only an ancient echo to something true, and he needs them to witness it, to verify the miracle is real. The woman takes her bony hand and pulls back the veil. She digs her mitts into the pie and scarfs him down. Reed informs them that it contains some special poisonous ingredients. Soon she will perish and then be resurrected by the very grace of God. The lady retches and passes out face first on the table. He wants them to specifically confirm that she is indeed dead, which they do, before they can continue. There's a chime from the doorbell. It's Elder Topher Grace from the church trying to track down the girls. They try to scream for help, but cannot be heard at the door. Spotting a box of matches, they work to pull the rug and matches closer. Of course, Reed plays innocent regarding the girl's whereabouts, even offering to let him use his phone. Thought you didn't have one. He also still could be lying about having one. Elder Toph is clueless and heads back into the storm, also seeing that the girls' bikes are gone, meaning Reed went and hit them at some point. They frantically pull on the rug and he bursts back into the room. The Elder lures him away again, and they quickly get the carpet to them. Back with the lady, Paxton is convinced that she has moved from moments before. Barnes disagrees. She didn't remember it that way. Even this particular moment reinforces the overall point here, how people remember something is conflicting. So who was right? That's the point. Barnes tries to strike a match, and a lady appears right behind Paxton, appearing very much alive. She hacks up some goo, extinguishing the match. She wheezes. The conductor says my name. White clouds, not heaven. They unplugged my brain. It's not real, she cryptically croaks. This implies something akin to the simulation theory, that we are in a different plane of reality from the real world, a similar concept to the Matrix. Reed joins them, and that is the direction that he starts heavily leaning. He accuses one of them of being a liar this whole time. How does he know? Because of the way that fire reacts to each of you. One of you has a big secret, he teases. First, he wants a detailed account of what they just saw. The woman came back to life, right? Paxton recalls what she said about the other side. Reed offers that now that she knows the truth, he can offer her the same enlightenment. I can show you God if you're willing to die. Again, if you take what he's saying at face value, you have to be pretty dumb to do that at this point. Barnes knows better. That wasn't a miracle, it was a magic trick. And there was plenty of opportunity for Reed to manipulate things as he has been all night. Barnes recalls her own near-death experience thanks to being poisoned at Taco Bell. Yeah, get in line. She had the exact same experience the prophet described when she was clinically dead for 4 minutes. Barnes dismisses what she said as actually your brain losing oxygen. During this, it can create all kinds of hallucinations. She argues that he's kept this woman on the verge of death to make her hallucinate, all to back up his own idea about the one true religion. He tries to convince her that she isn't remembering things correctly, and Barnes utters the code word, magic underwear. Reed gets a jump on her first, slashing her throat. He knows that he has no chance of convincing her, so out of desperation, he had no choice but to take her out, leaving the more vulnerable Paxton on her own. He assures her there is nothing to worry about, her pal will be back soon enough. Paxton runs to nowhere and remembers what her friend said, challenge him. Reed has some bad news. She might not come back at all due to an implant in her arm, the same spot that she was scratching earlier. According to him, this device means that Barnes was a simulation, a program. He uses an old quote about a butterfly dream. Am I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly dreaming I'm a man? How do you know what is real and what is the dream, so to speak? He illustrates the two different realms, the dream world, in which we are all in, and the real world on the other side. Paxton is no longer buying his increasingly insane ideas and challenges him. She rightly knows that is not some kind of mysterious device, but a birth control implant. Reed challenges her back. Have you ever met a Mormon on birth control? No, but she also does know that the church would shun her for doing so. She also understands that there is no real way to prove his simulation theory either. He agrees. It's a system of beliefs, just like any religion. She puts her foot down that she doesn't believe in this, but isn't sure why yet exactly. Well, what about the miracle? She's suspicious of that as well, and it feels to her that Reed is fumbling a bit now and improvising to keep her on the hook. She assumes that he must have switched the faux prophet's body, and of course when the doorbell rang, gave him a perfect distraction to act upon. We did see two figures covered in material earlier, and they could have been hiding in plain sight the whole time. Paxton recalls what the prophet said, and it seemed that the not real thing didn't actually fit with the rest. He gave her a script and she went off book. Reed considers in that case, then there must be another way into the room. Following the dripping water leads her to a hidden door under the mud. He urges her not to go in. That is, unless you're finally prepared to discover the one true religion. Yeah, what is it already? Golly. She comes to a body there as suspected. He looms from above and slams the door closed. She wanders through several more artifact-filled rooms that appear themed to various religions, including Satanism. Then, making it clear this is where she was supposed to end up this whole time, she comes to another door locked up with her bike lock. Good thing she's got the key. Inside, there's several women imprisoned in cages, and again, you're like, wow, this is quite an operation here. Got several ladies deep down in his crazy-ass bunker. How did he even get all these women here in the first place? Never-ending supply of Mormons showing up at his house? Whatever. Now we understand it was certainly no miracle, but a trick, and he's got a whole army of nearly starved prophets waiting in the wings. Reed rejoins her, and is curious, has she figured it out yet? She sure has. Control is the one true religion. She now knows how easy it would have been to get one of the many prophets to get her bike lock and put it on the door to prove his point. This is exactly where he has wanted her to be. It wasn't her choice. He's been controlling her the whole night. She's upset. He killed that lady, but he corrects that she chose to eat the pie. As for the rest of the prisoners, well, it's easier to control people when they've lost everything. Yep, Paxton doesn't understand why they let him, and he turns it to her own beliefs. She's been influenced by others since the day she was born, and that's made him able to predict her every choice. They've decided who and what she worships, even the garments you wear under your clothes. What? She sneers. Your magic underwear! And she stabs him through the throat. She hurriedly climbs the ladder back up, pulling out to the diorama of the house, her running through the wooden walls. She turns back down to the hole, and Reed surprises her with a cutter in the gut. He closes the door to freedom, and both begin to bleed out. Pray for us, he squeaks. Paxton surprisingly admits that prayer simply doesn't work, mentioning the Great Prayer Experiment. Guess what? If patients got prayers or not, it didn't make a lick of difference. But that doesn't matter to her, finding it beautiful that people pray for each other, even if they know it doesn't make a difference. Reed painfully scuttles along the ground towards her, and she starts to pray, thanking the Lord for the trials and path he's laid out for her. Reed brings the cutter to her throat, and he's thwarted by a surprise attack from Barnes. Resurrected after all, Paxton can't believe the sight, and her savior's sister collapses once more for good this time. She's back to the model, furiously tearing it open to find a way out. Hidden within a layer is a small space that leads to a window. She uses it to reach outside and drops her phone, seeing that it still says no signal. Paxton steps out into the snowy, sunny morning and falls to her knees. She peers down at her hand, and a butterfly has landed right on her finger, just as she specifically mentioned, leading us to think that it must be Barnes reaching out to her in some way. But then it disappears, as though it was never there in the first place. It's on this appropriately ambiguous note that we leave Paxton, leaving us wondering what exactly did happen. Was that last-minute save from Barnes a miracle and she did survive? Or was it something like the aforementioned hallucinations caused by her body shutting down? Once more, that is the whole point, tying into the themes of the story as a whole. Even the end credits reinforce the iteration idea. It's Sophie doing a cover of Knockin' on Heaven's Door, but it also sounds strikingly similar to Fade Into You by Mazzy Star. More of those dadgum iterations. Again, the idea is to be ambiguous, but based on what we've seen, what's the most likely outcome? Probably that she did perish down in the dungeon and the rest is just her hallucination. It's a bummer, but that makes the most sense. To me, it's more about Paxton's specific character journey. There's another motif of butterflies throughout, and we know what they are best known for: rebirth or transformation. I think that applies to Paxton, who herself has gone through a harrowing journey regarding her faith. It feels that she too has evolved in her faith, but also as a person, similar to the butterfly, and that to me is the real intent of the ending. Then we have Reed. Seriously, what is this dude's deal anyway? Not just the sheer amount of time, money, and effort he spent building his psycho house with several underground chambers and everything, kidnapping and keeping a group of ladies on the verge of starvation to act as faux prophets. This guy is certainly committed to his cause, you can't deny that. But I can't help but wonder why exactly. His whole intent is just to put the faithful through his twisted game just to prove that he can control them? Sure, I guess. And maybe that's all there is to it. I thought at points he was trying to, I don't know, start his own religion or something, but it just seemed more about proving his point than anything else. Although one detail made me consider that he did perhaps at one point actually have a wife. We see Reed using various cups that feature the word hubby written in a fancy font, the kind of thing a wife would give to her husband. I don't see why he would buy it for himself, even if part of the lie that he's telling, but maybe consider that suddenly he lost his wife at some point, and this is what led to his journey into theology, trying to find some kind of meaning for what happened. Ultimately, he found no answers, and maybe this spurned on his elaborate experiment, all born out of spite in a way, or maybe he's just nuts. That'll do it for this Anything Explained for Heretic, but make sure to leave any suggestions for movies you'd like to see me cover down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.